All right. We're going to call this meeting to order. Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Leon Valley Special City Council meeting. Today is Wednesday, June the 10th, 2026, and it's approximately 6:02 in the afternoon. And as you can see, we do have all city council members present. We do have a quorum. And I was going to ask Councilor Heil, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Or did you want us to do it together?
Do it together. Let's do it together. Let's all do it together. Okay, go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. And I even rested. Okay, citizens to be heard. Do we have anyone in the chambers other than Russell who's going to help us go through the packet here with our planning and zoning director that would like to comment? Did you have anything that you'd like to say before we started on citizens to be heard? I don't want to put you on the spot. Okay, that sounds good. All right, so seeing none, then we will move then to presentation 3.1, discussion, presentation, and direction to staff on updating and amending Chapter 15 zoning, Article 15.02, zoning ordinance, Division 7 permitted use table. And we have Dr. Caldera and Michael Gallardo, our Planning and Zoning Director, here this evening to present. Thank you and welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just kind of wanted to give some context for the record so we can kind of know why we're here this evening.
Sure.
The Planning and Zoning Commission was asked to review the permitted use table. And as part of the way the code reads is that the Planning and Zoning Department would review the permitted use table and provide any recommended changes of that permitted use table to the council. We had a joint meeting with the Planning and Zoning Committee, and they went through those changes with y'all. I think that some of y'all felt that Russell was intricate in that kind of discussion, and you still had further questions from the Planning and Zoning committee members on maybe why they picked something or why they chose something. And so tonight's exercise is just the planning and zoning recommendations. So we're going to go through the recommendations, you're going to go through those changes, and then after that, it will be brought to the council for y'all to make a decision on whether or not to approve or accept said recommendations. Y'all aren't going to vote on those changes, but y'all can have consensus among if you want an SU, I'm going to go because it's the first one, SUP on automotive auctions, then we'll just leave that alone. But anything that you have further discussion as amongst the peers or you don't want to add it, then we're going to take a formal vote on the permitted use table on the July 20th council meeting or a future council meeting date. I do think it's probably appropriate for all of y'all to go through the full permitted use table, not just what their changes are, but they're not making any recommendations on that, so we're not going to go through that with Russell. But any other changes you have on the permitted use table, maybe we set up a separate workshop to go through the remainder of the permitted use table. But this evening, from Russell's perspective, he's just giving your changes on the you're not going to go through the whole permitted use table tonight. This is just his recommendations to y'all and to why he made the changes or why he feels that the committee made the changes that he made. And then if we do at some point, because we're talking about like maybe puppy stores or vape shops or the churches or assembly type things, we can have that discussion as a body at a later time or the day we put this on that table. But this conversation is just their changes and why they made the changes, this short list. We're not going to go through the whole permitted use table.
So if we wanted to change something in the first half, we're not going to talk about that tonight. We'll talk about it at a later date because I had a few that I'd like to bring forth. But
absolutely. Well, but that's not their recommended change. Their recommended changes we just need to get. What I'm trying to do is get done with this process, with this not being done with the zoning commission, but have the zoning commission, they've made their recommendation, so we can move on as the body and make whatever changes y'all want to make to the permitted use table. And that may be a whole separate meeting, a whole meeting before a council meeting, whatever y'all want to do, and go through the rest of the table. to make other additional changes to the permitted use table. But tonight is just the changes the zoning commission is recommending to you, so we can remove them from this process and move on. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
All right, that sounds good. I was talking to Russell, so I was really glad because I was asking him about you. So if you wanted to come up, remember I was asking you about you. What is per underlying zone and GO means? And then you said, well, we were going to delete S, GI, and GO. So, right, on
Yeah.
the very end.
So-
And so I really we don't have to answer that, is right? Is that right?
Correct. So the only thing you're looking at, so your sustainability overlay and your commercial overlay districts and your gateway, remember, were inserted into a different portion. And so you don't have those provisions anymore. So we've already deleted those from your provision because you don't have a sustainability overlay. Like, we moved those provisions into your zoning code, so you don't have them anymore.
But what was
as a separate
confusing
zone.
is that GO didn't have an X through the U, and that's why I was asking. You see
Right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, so,
So, but it does in various other places, but it,
so
anyway.
so there's portions of your gateway overlay that will stay. What I'm more concerned, or what we're more concerned with, is your main uses. So
Yeah,
your
O1,
O1
B1,
through
B2,
your
B3,
I1,
yeah.
correct,
Mhm.
whether or not that use should be in those districts.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're gonna go through that. We as a body, remember we said we're gonna continue to bring back the sustainability overlay. The last thing I handled was your PDD, which was under that provision. The next piece were those little things remaining in those provisions. So we're gonna bring that back to you for further discussion at a later date. So remember, we handled PDD, which was the big, because I thought that was the biggest piece. We finally got done with that. Now we're gonna bring back another provision, but I wanted to get through permitted use table. I can't give it all to y'all all at once, because then we'd just
Too
be
much.
spinning our wheels. So this one is just a permitted use table. After we're done with this, and the council finally gets a clean permitted use table, then we'll bring back other provisions of chapter 14 that we think need to be changed and updated, including like percentage of remodel and all of that stuff.
Okay. And also, any ideas on how we should, tackle this tonight, individually, one by one, or what? Counselor Campos?
So first, I'd like to express my thanks to all the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and especially Mr. Russell Hernandez for your leadership on this process. I want to thank you. But one of the things that I kind of scratch my head on overall is I don't really understand where some of these districts or land uses are. Like, I don't know where the O1 in our city occur, and the same thing. And so it's hard to say, well, why would we make a change?
So two things. So one, I had this conversation with Ms. Mersch yesterday. I showed her where to look it up, and so she did her homework and saw why they made the changes they did. So I guess you didn't look at the zoning map. No. The second part of that is more so of when you're making a use, you're looking at, it's really not so much your map and where the zones are. You're supposed to be looking at, will antique shops, doesn't matter on your table right now, will they work in an O1, in an office space? Will they work in a business district? Will they work in a retail shop? Not where those O1, OB1 actually exist on your map. When you're looking at a permitted use table, you should be looking at the use and whether or not that use falls into that district. I know y'all like to kind of see the whole thing, but when you're deliberating on the type of use, you need to know whether or not it belongs in a retail shop. Not where the retail shop is located on Bandera. Now, I showed Ms. Mersch because that's where she had a question. I can put that map up so you could see it, and we can kind of go back and forth if that's something you want to do, but that's not how you should look at this. If you're looking at automotive auctions, it is whether or not that should be allowed in B1, because at any time, anybody can come in and ask for a zone change. And so if you're trying to compare this to your map, you're never going to really work out, because even if I pull your map up, you'll see a couple of B3 along your Bandera Road district, and in my opinion, those should eventually be changed to B2. They haven't yet because those people have been here forever and ever, and they got that zone district years ago. You're not changing those properties to B2 right now. That's not what this is. Each individual property would need to have a separate zone change, and if y'all want to do that at some point, that's for a later discussion, and we can look at your zoning map and see if you want to clean up your zoning map and what that looks like, but that's not tonight's exercise.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
So the reason why I thought it was important to know, like, what is an O1? It's, when I look at the motorcycle sales, repair, service, electric bikes, and motorized bikes, why would we want it in an office building? That's what.
Wouldn't. And so you wouldn't want, I'm telling you, you wouldn't. They're saying because there's only one, this is why you don't do it this way. And this is where, like, it's up to y'all to hear the recommendations. But the reason they said okay is because we only have one space that's O1. And so they're looking, or the zoning commission, I wasn't at all the meetings, is looking at it, go ahead and allow them because the only space they're allowed is here. That's why you really shouldn't take a zoning map and try to go ahead and okay things, because that's not the purpose of this exercise. You should be looking, would automotive shops work in an office space? What is your normal answer to that?
No.
Right. So then the answer to that on your table should be no. You're not supposed to look at your zoning map. That's why I say the zoning commission and y'all are separate. The zoning commission comes up with however they come up with their recommendation, it's fine. Let them present their recommendation to y'all. You as the body are going to make a final decision. You're going to ask yourself the correct way, should automotive be in an office space? You answered no. There you go. But if you start pulling up your zoning map, yes, you're going to be, well, it's only one spot, so it really doesn't matter. But in all reality, at the end of the day, Wells Fargo, I'm going to say the Wells Fargo building, can come in and say, we don't want to be, I think right now it's considered a B3. We don't want to be B3 anymore. We want to be O1. We want to change our use because eventually we want to sell this to X, Y, and Z. And they come in, well, now automotive would be allowed in that use. And that's where things kind of fall through the cracks sometimes, because we're saying we change these provisions based on a zoning map, not based on the use. So when you look at a permitted use table, it should be just use and whether or not it fits under that district. That's how you should look at it. You shouldn't be looking at your zoning map saying, oh, well, you only have 3 and they're all kind of inside 410. That's great, but at any point, if anybody switches a zone or we're not here or says, you know what, we now want Bandera Road to be completely commercial, and they switch it, everything that's allowed in B3 will end up being allowed in that district. And so the way I would instruct y'all, because we haven't gotten there yet, they're just giving you your recommendations. When we get to the council looking at the permitted use table, my instruction to y'all will be that. You don't look at your zoning. Does it fit in this district? Is the use appropriate for that, for B2? Is it selling a product? Is it doing X, Y, and Z? Then you as a body make a decision. But that's why they're 2 separate phases. The zoning commission goes through it how they want to go through it. They're the autonomy body. They're going to make the recommendation to y'all. Y'all are going to discuss their changes, and then me and Art at a council meeting typically will tell you, because I'm going to tell you there's a couple of things on here that Art's going to say you can't do. Like when we talked about assembly uses, anything that's allowed for sale. So let's talk pet shops, for instance. You're allowed to sell items from a pet shop. You couldn't put pet shops in a commercial district or in an O1, because let's say you're trying to prevent pet shops from coming here. So now you're going to say pet shops are only allowed in O1 because you only have one O1 spot. And so we're going to stick them there. You will lose that. You will lose if it's challenged, because it is a sell of a product. So all of your sell of your products go in B2. Vape shops, pet shops, all the same types of uses have to be allowed in the same district. And so that's when we're talking about assembly type uses. That's why you can't say, oh, churches are only allowed in B3 and not allow schools in there because schools are also considered an assembly type use. You have to allow all the same uses in the same district. So there's a couple on here. I know the attorney's going to chime in and say, you can't do that. You're going to have to chime in. But we weren't there yet. We're here at the zoning commission providing you their recommendations, whether or not you want or like the recommendation. So then that way I can tell Art, hey, this is what the council was okay with. Can we do X, Y, and Z as part of a regular council meeting? And then I do think if you want to go through the entire table, it's going to take like 6 to 7 hours. You're going to need like a retreat day to go through the entire table, probably with the city attorney or his planning person, because I know planning this much and they probably know it this much, to make sure you're not putting something, if you're going to do an overhaul and try to move things around, to make sure you're not putting something in a use that isn't appropriate, or removing something that isn't appropriate. So I would recommend, if you're getting into that in depth, to have the attorney. I was just going to send Art whatever y'all were okay with for their changes to him to make sure that those were okay.
Sure. Councilor
Thank you,
Roscoe.
Mayor. And Dr. Cardetta, refresh my memory. Why is it that they feel, the planning and zoning feel that they had to restructure the table? How did they, were they having challenges with the old one that was there? Why is it that they're changing it? What is it they're trying to establish?
They weren't. So essentially what we try to do, even when Melinda was here, we try to look at your permitted use table every 5 years or so. And one of the big reasons for that is you typically have what's called new industry. So you'll have like data centers. We don't have that here, but it's just an example. Data centers or AI isn't in a use because we didn't know that those things existed 5 or 10 years ago. So about 5 years, we try to look at your permitted use table, to go through it, to make sure that all of the uses that you currently have are in what y'all feel is the appropriate district. Should automotive auctions be allowed in B2? Well, maybe not, or yes, whatever that looks like. It's kind of a sale, but it's not a sale. And so they're saying maybe it should be allowed in a B3 with an SUP. And so right now it's only allowed in your industrial district. And if you look at the map, your industrial district is on the inside of 410. But you could at any point have somebody come in, especially like back off a Reindeer Trail, and say, hey, we really want some of these to be in the eyes. And you switch it, well, then automotive would then now be allowed in that district, the automotive auction. Do you see what I'm saying? So you have to look at each of these uses and say, does this use fall in or would be okay in these districts? And you can I tell people you can use your zoning map as a guide, but you shouldn't say I'm going to allow all of these because we only have this piece as O1. So you can allow all of these uses because we only have one area dedicated, because at any point somebody can come in and request a zone change, which happens, a couple of times a year. And so if they come in and say, okay, I now want to be O1, then all of the uses allowed in O1 would be allowed on that plot of land. And so they didn't think that they had to change anything. That was one of the things they were instructed. Hey, go through it. Do you have any changes? Is there any new industries you want to add to the use, like tattoo shops or data centers or something that bail bonds? Is there something you want to add as a use on here? I also cautioned them at the first meeting, the one meeting I did attend, is sometimes it's better not to add a use, because sometimes if you add a use and you don't allow them, so I'm going to use bail bonds as an example. You say bail bonds isn't allowed, we're only going to allow them in O1. Well, what is it that they're doing as a bail bonds? They're loaning you money. Well, you allow payday loans in your B2. So then therefore, you can't allow payday loans in your B2 without allowing your bail bonds in a B2. So it's better off not allowing them, having them come in and ask for a request to come in, because then you can deny them what you did. And so if you have a use, then it has to be with all the other comparable uses. And so sometimes it's best that like tattoo parlors, we have never added them for a particular reason. You could add them and then have them added with SUP, so you can control timing, when they shut down, when they're open, because that seems to be the crux of it all, that they're going to draw in a certain crowd. Well, we've always left them off, so we can say you have to come in and request to be most of the time in a B2. And so then that way, if they're next to a church and a daycare, do you really want a tattoo shop in the middle? Well, no. Well, you don't really have that regulation if you allow them in that B2 district. This way, if they're not on your chart, they have to come in and the council can deny whether or not they're allowed there. So sometimes it's best that you don't have a use on your use. But it's good to have those conversations because culture changes, industries change. So tattoo parlors back in the day was like big broody bar, now that's not the case. You have artists and so that may be something you now want to allow. And so you could add that use onto your chart that you didn't have before. So that's why you review the chart. So they were instructed to go through the table, make any suggested changes, and bring those recommendations to y'all. Y'all then turn and say, yes, we like this recommendation. No, we don't like this recommendation. And you should be very strategic. We agree on this one. We don't agree on this one. We agree. We don't. We agree. It's a yes and no kind of a situation. Then as a body, you go through the whole table. Y'all can have an in-depth conversation on assembly uses, vape, whatever y'all want to have an in-depth conversation about. And you really kind of go through the chart in itself with some attorney guidance, because I don't, like I said, I know a lot, but I don't know everything. And so I don't ever want to get y'all caught with like the church. We got sued and we lost because we put churches in a B3 and we didn't grab all the other assembly uses and throw them in a B3. And we did lose that case. And so whether the attorney didn't catch it, I don't know, but that's what happened. And so I don't ever want y'all to move a use into the wrong district without grabbing everything else. And so that's why I would send the chart to Art when y'all are done and have him review it to make sure that we don't have any of those.
All right. Well, the definitions of the districts are in the back, so
Yes.
we can always refer back to that. But do you want to just go through on page, is it 23? We start there?
21 is where they start.
There's 21 and then,
21? Oh,
21, yes,
It says P and Z recommendations from the use table at the top.
oh, mine is on page 23. Mine is 23, and mine is 23, and it's, yeah, I got it, yeah, but mine is page 20. So we want to just go through each one and talk about it? Y'all want to do that?
There you go. Now it's yours, Russell.
Okay. But my understanding, Russell, is that we just ignore the last 3 columns, is that right? As we go through these?
Yeah.
We'll bring back 8 to y'all and see what y'all want to do.
Okay, all right, sounds good. So, antique store, it was not permitted in office, but now you allow, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, Ms. Marsh?
No, I was just going to start by saying I have issue with allowing an antique store in an office building.
Okay, go right
So-
ahead. I was just going to make
So
that note.
I
that
think it
that's-
needs to be in retail is where the first place should be, that it's,
Okay, does anyone else feel the same way? That we should keep it as an X? Is that's what you're
well,
advocating?
even it's even allowed in the old chart on a B1 with the small business. And I think that's a delicate difference between a small business and a retail.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know whether a small business is an attorney or an accountant or, whatever.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
But
I feel
I
so much better.
definitely don't think we should change it to allow it in an office.
Okay. Now, that's a very considerate city manager. Thank you. I feel so much better sitting up. Okay, thank you.
I know
All
the
right.
short problem.
Yes, okay. So does anyone else feel the same way? Yes, go ahead, Counselor.
Can we hear
Antique.
maybe
Oh.
why the committee recommended,
There you go.
the commission recommended this change?
So, when I looked at it and I was trying to understand all this, and I didn't necessarily have like, okay, well, what's the right approach to trying to organize or make decisions here? I looked at the map for each of these codes. I realized I needed more information than what was on here. I looked at the descriptions of each of these types of columns
Mm-hmm.
to get a sense of what is this, and the map, and then, okay, I've got these rows and columns, and I realized, there was decisions for why all of this looked as it was initially presented to me, and I don't have the background justification necessarily, other than somehow someone thought that this matched up. but we are being requested to review it and maybe make changes, because there might be there might be something off, maybe some better way of reorganizing. And when I looked at it, I just saw opportunities to personally saw opportunities to simplify the columns themselves, because of how the geography looked in the parcels, with the way they were arranged, and the number of O1 and B1, as well as I noticed there were similarities in the description of O1 and B1, like the intended uses are for that. And so I realized, there's just an opportunity to maybe even just merge them together in one column and call it one category. And then separately, I saw opportunity for B3 and I1. There's a lot of similarities when it comes to zoning, like the number and then where they're placed in relation to each other, as well as the descriptions of them, that there's opportunity possibly just to merge the columns. Now, it was recommended, in the meetings we talked about, that, okay, well, maybe it's better to keep the separations of the different things. And so as we were then going through, I said, well, how do we approach all of this? If there are changes to be made, well, let's do something versus nothing, right? And let's look at this. And there seemed to be minimal disruption because the uses are so aligned between O1 and B1, the descriptions, that let's just bring them together in the same way to be matching. Because a use that is happening in one, it's because the other use is very similar to it already in description and in placement in the community. We didn't see much difficulty in just making the two match up next to each other for O1 and B1, and then separately for B3 and I1. So that will indicate to you our justification for most things on here.
Okay.
And then on a case-by-case basis, we kind of looked at individual rows and made broader determinations if we felt something, if we had more information or we had more vision or regarding what could be done with that row or use.
Okay. Anyone else? So, when I heard the planning and zoning, they were looking at O1 and B1 as one and the same, basically. Okay, so that's why they permitted it. Yes, Counselor.
After looking at the map, when I see an O1, there's one right next to Grass Valley, or next to the pool on Evers Road.
So originally, this is actually City of Leon Valley property.
Okay.
The Forest Oaks pool, and the reason for that was because it was owned by. So when they set up the district originally, it was because they were an office space owned by a neighborhood association.
Okay, because I saw that and I was like, no, I don't think an antique store. Okay.
But that's why I'm saying you really, when we look at uses, I
Don't-
don't look at it from
don't look
that
at the map.
perspective, because at any point, at any time, somebody can come in and say, I now want this area right here next to it that is now a kid center, I want that O1. And I want to come over here to Bandera Road and make this a O1.
Okay.
Then anytime you change a zone, anything allowed in that zone would be allowed in that district.
Okay.
So you think, now antique store would be fine in B2, right? But if you think that for whatever reason, we don't want an antique store on Bandera, but eventually this becomes an O1, then anything allowed in O1 would be allowed in that district. Okay. Correct. I was trying to get the definitions between, so it sounds like what they did was they wanted to merge B1 and O1 as one. So let me get the definitions out for y'all and see if y'all kind of feel the same way.
Okay, so merge B1 and O1.
Y'all can continue your conversation.
Okay, all right. So I guess that was the same justification for art gallery as well?
Right.
Okay.
That was kind of to work through the however many items within a time frame of the meetings and the space, et cetera. That was our initial strategy,
Okay,
right? And to go through, and then if there was anything beyond that, we maybe, had just further
Okay.
conversation.
all right. Anyone agree or disagree with that? Permitted in office, again, just the same justification? They saw O1 and B1 as the same?
I guess I disagree with that premise, and so I think we need to look at them as different classifications and put things where they are more defined as whether it's a small business or a retail. So in my mind, even a B1 isn't the right, it shouldn't be allowed for an antique store. In a B1, I think an antique store is retail, they're selling antiques. I mean, it's not there to look at, it's not, you know, it's a sale place.
So look at the definition, I have it on the screen for O1 office. And so for O1 office district is composed mainly of land and structure occupied or suitable for office use, which excluding offices which are incidental to a primary use. The district regulations are designed to protect the character of the residential area by regulations and closed activities or uses, which could intrude upon the lifestyle of the community through inappropriate lighting, noise, vibration, smoke, dust, and pollutants. The district regulations implement the policies of the master plan in the following: protecting the residential area. So normally you would see O1 where you have the Forest Oaks pool, but also probably to before it was a daycare. I will bet you anything that little office strip where we have the chamber and
Yeah.
that was probably considered O1. The reason they probably changed it was when they inserted the daycare. Somebody probably came for a zone change and said we need a zone change in order to allow daycare in here. So at some point they changed it to B2 to allow certain uses in that district. But I can guarantee you probably at one point it was probably O1 because we had the chamber there, we had a realtor there.
Realtor, yeah,
So
State Farm or something, yeah.
yeah,
and so
Kinder Care.
yeah.
they probably
7-Eleven.
I don't remember that.
Or Stop and Go. Yeah. Stop and Go.
Oh, that's a long time ago, yeah.
So they probably said, we don't want that abutting, we don't want that kind of activity, so they changed the use of that activity to something a lower use, and they turned into office space, and then at some point, they probably changed back to a B2.
And they had to come to council to change it though, right?
Yes, but I mean, this is probably years ago, like,
Long time
zoning,
ago.
yeah, zoning changes go back and forth on whoever sits on the dais and whoever gets the request in front of them. So that's why it's very important that when you're looking at uses, you're looking at just the use and not the map, because things change, right? Things come in and out of your zoning district depending on who's on the dais and who's making the request. And so an office space typically is 10,000, it's a smaller format, right? It's lot area, shall not contain an area of not less than 8,400 square feet for one unit, 10,000 square feet for the first unit, and 1,200 square feet for any additional unit. Lot frontage is 70 feet, so they kind of give like the setbacks, rear and side yards. And then you go into, they kind of give like a diagram, then you go into B1, and B1 is composed of land and structures occupied or suitable for such uses as office, light service, and light retail. So B1 typically is something very low impact to the community as well, but they're selling product. Whereas an office space is going to be your insurance, your maybe an attorney's office, maybe the chamber, maybe a Rotary Club. Whereas your B1 is going to be something that could sell product, but it's going to be low.
Like a coffee shop in the
Like,
park.
yeah, maybe like a small, well, maybe a coffee shop, but it could be, I'm trying to think of something, like something niche, like if you only sold necklaces, or you only sold like handmade gloves or something, that would be a small B1.
Or like a
It's not
travel agency where you're interacting with somebody, but you're ultimately gonna get them, sell a
something. So
trip to
something
them.
very small in nature, but that could have a retail sales impact. But you're not gonna have like a Costco or a Walgreens, or it's not a large impact store that's gonna have that kind of B2 retail. It's gonna be smaller in use. Small footprint, 3,000 square feet. So that's the difference between O1 and a B1, but they're not wrong in their kind of thought process, because an O1 could fit in a B1. Like it could be, like if we got something in, I could be like, well, that could be a B1, well, that could be, so it's just whoever is making the determination on the use. So they're not wrong that they're pretty similar in nature, but there's still some differentiation between the two.
Okay, so, yes, so we've got the, is anyone, did you say you agreed with Counselor Mersch that we should
Yes, ma'am.
not allow it in O1 and B1? Anyone else feel that same way?
Well, yes, I agree with her statement as far as it being defined two different, and one of the things is, if we keep it on here, Dr. Cardetta had mentioned, the bail bondsman. We were able to deny that because, of the zoning, and yet he came in for a variance or for a zone change. And that gives us the strong option of agreeing or not agreeing to get this done. So, but if we take it away, well, I don't want to rattle on, but yes, I agree with Councilor Merge.
Okay, anyone else support that? Okay, Counselor Campos and Heil, and, okay, so we want to put the X for antique store and art gallery for O1 and B1? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that recommendation? Just O1? I thought you had,
Yeah,
I thought you
said
thought
for
B1
B1 also.
too, that's what I
but-
thought.
Yeah, well, you want to keep both of them, right? Yes.
And the zoning saw those two as the same, so that, okay, so,
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I'm clear. Leave antique in B1?
Yeah, keep them on. I'm sorry, Mayor.
I'm
It's
saying
X,
not permitted in
yeah.
B1, only permitted in B2.
yeah, so not permitted in O1, not permitted in B1 for antique store and art gallery unless somebody disagrees. That's what I'm hearing,
That's
to my
what I
right.
said, yes.
I want to be sure everybody on my left feels the same way. Okay, so we'll put the X there then.
And I think that's great. We realized when I was looking at definitions, there's just so much similarities that
Uh-huh.
whatever goes in one, very likely, it's hard to differentiate why one would go in one, one not the other. So it makes sense like just to match them up,
Sure, match them up, but,
whether it's approved or not approved. we
okay,
just-
all right. Very good. Okay, then let's move then to automotive auction.
Oh, I'm sorry, just art gallery?
No, I thought there was the same for art gallery, X and X on O1 and B1. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. But permitted in B2, B3, and I1.
Yes.
Okay, then moving to automobile auction, it is permitted in the industrial, but it's permitted in B3 with an SUP. And what was the thinking there?
That's the
Russell?
same idea with that, that B3 and I1 are so
Together, okay.
together on the map and then also in their descriptions
Okay.
that, let's match them up. But at the same time, we for instances like this, we just decided to put SUP as like an extra layer
Uh-huh.
of,
To protect the
yeah, they would
neighbors,
have to,
really.
it would have to come through another,
Oh,
if there was something we weren't
okay.
seeing, it would have to come through another layer of
Would y'all like to see those
decision-making.
definitions? Yes, go ahead, Counselor Mersch. But I was
My,
thinking,
my understanding of an SUP is that you can kind of put some qualifications around their operation in terms of lighting and hours and stuff like that. So it's not really, in my mind, another layer of approval, because you're saying, well, yes, you can be in it, but we can kind of tighten the reins a little bit. But if it's something that maybe shouldn't be in there, I don't know that an SUP is going to make it acceptable by doing lighting, signage, hours, noise, something like that.
and what was the planning and zoning's thought on the SUP?
Well,
Just another layer of protection for the
We thought that-
citizens is how I look at it.
correct, that someone couldn't just go in and do without some other layer of approval. If there was some sort of things that we wanted to be extra, cautious about going into certain spaces, but the spaces are, where they're located, B3 and I1 were so similar that, it didn't seem like it would be too disruptive to have those categories aligned. We just decided to use SUP because, yes, it would have to come through. And we don't pretend to know everything, and so that's partly why our caution.
Okay. All right. Do y'all agree for these, or did you, I think Counselor Mersch, you wanted to do away with the SUP? Is that what I'm hearing?
I
Just- I
think it
just wanted-
should stay the way it was, where it stays in industrial, because I think of an automobile auction is that it's going to take a lot of space because you're going to have the cars and you're going to have crowds, and it's, I don't know, I think of commercial as something a little bit neater or
heavier
cleaner
use.
or, so.
Yes, Counselor Orozco.
Thank you, Mayor. Dr. Cardetta, how is it gonna affect our automobile auction for the police? It's not?
Okay.
Ours are on,
All right,
I
so,
should make it very clear why it doesn't apply to us, because then somebody's gonna say, oh, they're just making an exception for themselves. Our auction is online, it's through Ward Auction Online, and so we're not out there gaveling the cars. It's all online only, and so then they come and pick up the car from here. Automotive auction facilities have cars on premises, you're going to purchase there on the premise. Ours is done completely online through Ward Auction, it's not done here.
okay, very good. Okay, so Counselor Mersch is advocating to just exit from B3 and just keep it in industrial. Does anyone else feel the same way?
You go
Yes.
back to B3, though, it is permitted, if you read at the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
what B3 will allow, it's storage of vehicles and everything. Is that correct? Is that what it said on B3, Dr. Caldera?
On the district, on
Go
the,
back to the definitions,
on the
please.
definition of B3? There you go.
So B3 is a composed land or structure used and furnished commercial needs, but if you go to your chart, I'm over here. Before automotive auctions were not allowed in your B3. They were saying allow it with an SUP. And Mersch is saying, Councilman Mersch is saying, just don't allow it in B3, only allow it in your industrial. And they're saying, well, if you look at what the use is it's pretty consistent, so why not allow that type of use in the B3? So they added it, but with an SUP, just in case something went wrong. And then if you go to your map, then automotive auctions would be allowed in everything that is light green with an SUP. And then right now, it's only allowed where the purple is, which is right here inside 410, and then you have a couple of pockets up here. Like by Eckerd Road and you see my little mouse, right here. So that's currently where your industrial I-1 is. So right now, automotive auctions are only allowed really here and up here, if they were to come in. If you allow them in B3, they would be allowed in all of the bright green areas, which is here and here, as well as the purple, but in the light green, they would have to come and get an SUP, and then y'all could regulate the time of day, you can regulate time of day, lighting, and then they could not agree to that and go away or whatever, but they would be allowed with an SUP.
Yes, Counselor Campos.
I would tend to agree that they should not be in anything other than the industrial. Some of these B3 abut residential areas, and no matter what the SUP requirements would be, I don't think it's, I don't think I'd want them around the residential areas.
Okay. Anyone else agree with Counselor Mersch and Counselor Campos? Yes. Counselor Bolton? Okay, Counselor Roscoe and Counselor Heil by consensus? Okay, so the consensus is to not allow automobile auction in B3. Am I getting that right for everyone? Okay. So we'll take out the SUP and just keep it in industrial.
And for
Correct?
clarification,
Yes.
if in some future thing we determined that, we just didn't want automobile auctions and things of that nature zoned anymore, and were to remove it altogether, those existing businesses could still maintain
They're
themselves.
grandfathered, right? Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, they would be grandfathered, they would
Right.
be kicked out.
Okay. All right, we're going down to automobile wrecker service. Again, same justification. B3 and I1, the zoning commission saw as synonymous to each other, and so they recommended to allow it in B3 within SUP. Does anyone disagree with that?
I do.
Yes.
Same reason as the
Okay.
auto auction.
Okay.
I-
Yes, Counselor Mersch.
I don't think that an SUP regulations could make it palatable enough to have it in a commercial area, because they're generally going to be to some extent working 24 hours a day, and the noise and, just the big trucks and the, you know, I know they're gonna drop off cars somewhere, but I think it just needs to stay in industrial.
Okay, is that the consensus, Mr. Roscoe? How do you feel,
Yeah,
Mr. Campos?
I agree with the noise and stuff like that. Yes, I agree with the marriage. I also have another question after you ask
All
everybody
right,
else.
and Counselor Heil and Counselor Campos? Okay, go ahead, please.
Mr. Hernandez, please, this is, I hope you don't take this, you know, these are just our opinions, and I hope it doesn't offend anybody on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Y'all did a wonderful job in doing this, so I want to point that out, okay? So thank you.
Okay,
I do have a question
yes,
though,
go
Mayor.
ahead, Counselor Roscoe.
Are we gonna be going through each one individually? Because, we've been here almost an hour, we've only gone through 3 of them. Is there something that we can streamline where, we can say, oh, well, this stood out for me, this stood out for, maybe we can look at this one, jump around, or something that's more, obvious that we need to, take notice on?
Well, we could take it where, does anyone have a concern with the recommendation? It couldn't be all of them, but you know what I'm saying? And we just take that one by one, if you want to do that. I just thought we were going to go through each and every one of them, but you're right, it's going to take us till midnight to do that.
When this first started.
Uh-oh, that's right, that's right. Hey,
And
there
that's
are some
irrelevant.
priorities.
You know, no, I know, I understand, but I'm not trying to, it's just saying that, like you say, we're gonna be here
Yeah.
way after midnight. There has to be a better way we can streamline our recommendations, instead of being here till midnight, or is there something that stood out, to one of the counselors that we can just cover it real quick?
Okay, Counselor
I was just
Mersch.
gonna say that part of this hour that we only did 3 of them was a lot of background information that we're working off of. So it's not that we've been going through the table for an hour. And I think that we can speed this up, but I still think it's important that we take everyone through. I mean, I've got a lot of circles here. And I don't know whether I'm the only one that was kind of critical of this, but I think a lot of, I guess my main argument is an SUP isn't enough to make it acceptable. There's nothing you can, limitations or guardrails or whatever from an SUP perspective that can make some of these acceptable. And I think it's better to be more restrictive and either have them ask for a zone change or have them look in another area of the city or whatever, because it's going to be harder if we say we permit it with an SUP, but then if there's nothing we can do to make it acceptable with the SUP characteristics, then we've opened the door to having things in weird places.
Okay, all right, yes, Counselor Campos.
So I just have a suggestion, if y'all are up for it. So I don't know, like, now that you have the context of how they went through the chart of whether or not you would like, if Mr. Russell can, sit here and stay if he would like to, or you can release him if you would like to. And then what we can do is, like, the Nexon bar, and I can explain why, which makes sense because they have multiple bars. But as you're going through, since it sounds like Beth really went through the chart, she can, as we're going through, make her suggestion and then agree or disagree with leaving it. And so we can get through, we can touch each one, but since she kind of really went through the chart, kind of like Mr. Campos went through short-term rental, like we kind of relied on him, then we can kind of hit each one, and if y'all have a comment, then we can, stop there. But if y'all are okay with her said suggestion, then we can kind of move through them quickly.
Yes, Counselor Campos.
So, hearing the reasons why O1 and B1 have changed, I understand the logic, okay? But I'm wondering if there's any consensus that all the SUPs in O1 just not be accepted.
I agree.
I mean, if I go through them, I'm looking at them, I don't know that I would say SUP is going to give us enough control over it. But that's just a suggestion.
So are you saying remove the SUP and make it an X
Out of the O1s. Yes,
out of the O ones? Okay, there's a lot of them, yeah.
ma'am.
Was that your logic, Counselor Mersch?
Yes, I would agree with that, but there's even one that they didn't change that already had an SUP in office and small business. If you look at childcare facility, well, I don't think it should be an office for sure. So I would make that an X from, but that wasn't a change that the planning and zoning made. They made their change over here by allowing it with the SUP and industrial, and that's a little scary to me too, to have a childcare center and an industrial center. So here, this is where they made the change, but I don't think it's acceptable to have them in an office space either, because you've got the play areas and the noise and, that kind of stuff too.
Okay, yes, Counselor
From my
Campos.
understanding.
But I definitely agree with Mr. Campos's suggestion that if a SUP was added where, before it was prohibited completely in the office area, we should undo all those.
Okay, yes, go ahead,
So,
please, sir.
As we laid the ground rules when we started this session, we said, we're only going to cover the ones where there were changes through the planning and zoning. But we were going to come back and then later discuss those changes that we felt necessary, because I think
Okay,
you're
yeah.
you're correct in that. And I have some other ones that, that I'd like to bring up, but,
You mean other than the planning and zoning's recommendation? Yeah,
Yeah.
I just want to be clear.
I think staff will have, I was just trying to get through this piece first, so we could move on to the next piece, which is, y'all. Any additions you have, anything that we need to go and ask Art about, anything we need to that kind of thing. Because they had their opportunity, y'all suggested changes don't have to go back to them. They've already reviewed it, they provided the recommendations, and so now, then after that, it would be whatever y'all want to add, change, delete, then then we can go through that process.
Yes, Counselor Mersch.
But do we want to touch a use more than once? So
Right, I
if
agree with
we,
you. I was
if
getting
we
ready to say that.
undo the change on childcare facility that they made in the industrial area, and Art looks at it and says, okay, and then we want to go back and change the things that they didn't touch, that doesn't sound,
Yeah, efficient. I
Efficient.
agree with you. If you're on it, I can make the notes for it and just send them to Art. So that way we're not going through the same uses again.
Okay.
So, y'all's thoughts, I don't know if Mr. Hernandez wants to go watch the Spurs game.
Yeah, we want to keep it.
just
but-
call in and tell Mr. Orozco what the score is.
Yeah, no, I got my phones. But with your recommendation, we scratch out 16 of them automatically. We get those 16 out of the way. So
Well,
that's
let's-
it.
let-
And
let's
I
go
agree
th-
with it.
Let's go through it with them, if everyone's in agreement, just so that we have a record.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
So the bar,
the reason that they deleted it is it's repetitive. You have bar, tavern, completely enclosed, bar, tavern with outdoor entertainment uses. And so you should have two separate ones, but if it's a bar, it's gonna be either one or the other. So that's why they deleted one. So then you go to the next one and they said bar and office space, which you've already changed. So unless you have any other changes to bar, tavern, completely enclosed, and any of the other, uses, we can go on to bar, taverns, outdoor entertainment.
Okay.
okay, so we'll just X out the SUP on the bar tavern, completely enclosed. What about B1
So
with
it's
an
been there
SUP?
already,
It's already been there, so we're going to leave it?
and so that's up to you.
Okay.
I'm not seeing any.
What do y'all think?
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
So
All
we
right.
would just need to fix a definition. If you scratch out bar altogether,
Uh-huh.
the other two only apply to 5,000 square feet or less, so we would have to probably remove that.
How do
So
you,
in case you have a bar that's bigger than 5,000 square feet,
how do you know that?
it's in the definitions.
So they had bar, tavern, completely enclosed, bar, tavern, outdoor uses, but they deleted, in my understanding, in one of them,
Bar.
bar,
Yeah.
because it was repetitive, they
Right.
figured it was
They
repetitive.
felt that it fell into one of the other two categories. However, the definition in our code does say that it's intended for like 5,000 square feet or less. So we would just have to fix that part in the event that someone wants to open a bar that's 6,000 square feet. I mean,
Then
I put it
I would
in-
definitely keep the bar, but maybe we can add the definition in the description, bar greater than 5,000 square feet, and then keep it where it's an SUP in the commercial area.
So the zoning, just so you know their perspective perspective, they were trying to condense as much as they could, because they felt like you'll have like 30 pages of stuff. So the more they could delete or minimize, they were trying to make it more user-friendly. I would just recommend you having the 2 bars and just changing the definition, because it's easier to say, bars over a certain amount require an SUP versus having 3 bar
Okay.
situations. Do you know what I mean? And we can come back with a definition change for you.
But I thought we were gonna,
Oh, I mean, I'm sorry, as far as the uses, y'all
yeah.
can dictate that to me. Do you all
so that
want
would be
bar or
O1. O1, we'd cross out the SUP and not allow it, right? Okay, that's, okay. All right, so
Okay, now you're moving
what
to
about the CBD? That's O1,
Definitely out.
SUPX?
Are we gonna go
Yeah, you already
over
did that one.
anything in O1 that has
Yeah, we
SUP?
already
Yeah.
stopped
to
there at
to
one.
accept the
We've
recommendation?
already gotten rid of those.
But so on the CBD one, can we add an SUP to the B ones? Or is the definition adding enough SUP stuff?
Well, mine has an SUP, is yours?
Not on
It says
B1.
SUP, and we took all those out in O1.
O1?
No, not in
SUP?
the B one,
He's talking
She's
B1.
talking
And-
about B1.
B1.
She's
So
saying to add an SUP.
add an SUP to the B1 for the CBD and hemp
Mm.
in terms of
So you wanna
hours
allow
and
it?
lighting and what's next to it if the smell, I mean, I went to a really good one at TML about the CBD stores and the hemp stores and the smell that goes across to other things, and so they've got far-reaching consequences.
So CBD, so what she's saying is, of course, not allowed in O1, but under B1, she's saying an SUP. So are y'all okay with that? Okay, so I'll just add an SUP for B1 under.
And I think if my understanding,
Okay, go ahead, because I thought it was, it's
understanding
not allowed in O1, the CBD, right?
that we were not gonna, accept the changes in O1 that has an SUP. We were gonna
Right.
revert to what was originally in there.
That is correct.
Right.
So that's why we're not going through that column.
Okay.
Right.
We're just on B2, and she's saying, can you add an SUP?
So B2 or B1?
B1.
B1, we're gonna add an SUP. Yeah, that's what I had. Okay,
Child care facilities.
okay, that's,
So let's touch on the SUP. You said you didn't want it in the commercial district, correct?
Correct.
In the industrial is where it is. So I think it should be prohibited, and that's just too dangerous in my
I1
mind.
should just be an X?
Okay?
Yeah, it should
Also
just
think
be
that
an
way.
X. But while we're touching on that use, I think we should take it out of office completely.
Anyone else agree to that? O1? So delete childcare facility completely out of O1. Is there agreement on that, or consensus? Okay, so put an X there. Yes, Counselor Campos.
So, daycare, is it child, care facilities? Is this the same as adult daycare facilities? No, but I'm, in terms of,
Assembly.
once we accept a use of this, this is no longer taxable, property to the city?
Correct. So daycares, so childcare facilities, and adult care facilities are non-exempt now, or, I'm sorry, considered exempt status now, and so they can apply for an exemption not to pay property tax. It was passed in the last legislative session.
And so, do we want to regulate where they can be, create more regulations? Is this part of the assembly type that
I don't know the answer to for schools is definitely an assembly, lodges are definitely an assembly. Daycares, I would think, but that is a legal question. I don't know. The legislative session this last time did a lot of things that aren't considered taxable, like feminine, like a whole bunch of products, but they also did a couple of properties, and they did daycare because they were trying to combat the rising cost of childcare. People are like, our rent is going up, or property taxes, whatever the reasoning was. So they have removed them from having to pay property tax. But I don't know enough about, it will definitely, whatever you do with childcare, I think is going to mimic what you do with adult daycare, with adult care as well. So whatever you do here, you'll probably have to do there. areas, but I don't want to tell you that advice without an attorney.
That would be helpful.
B2, B2?
Correct.
Oh.
I think you could remove,
It's permitted.
So if you look at, Eckerd Road, at the very corner of that shopping center, it was a shopping center, and
They had that
made a
daycare
parking
forever.
lot to put a play facility,
Mhm.
and there's daycare. Now, me and the chief and everybody was like, no, our fear was somebody was gonna veer off of Eckerd and crash into that gated fence. So there is, I think on the backside, they put some blocks there or whatever, I don't even know if they're still there. But there's a daycare, but that is very obvious that the shopping center wasn't intended to house a daycare, or you have a play facility in a parking lot, like that wasn't. That wasn't the intent of that shopping center. But because childcare facilities were allowed in B2, they were allowed in B2, and they made some provisions to allow them there. So we've never changed that provision, and I don't know if the reason we've never changed that provision is there's some legal thing that tells me I can't. So that is an art question, but I would, if you can, I would make that change.
Okay. So X and B2.
So can we make the
child-
change and have Art review it and tell us that we're wrong? So the first place it would be permitted would be commercial, B3, right?
Well, it has B1 SUP,
Oh,
childcare.
We've already skipped that. We've already agreed we don't want it
If
to
we
be.
X them up until B3, I
Okay.
think, is that what we're,
That's
So we're
what I'm-
Xing
that's what I'm
O1,
hearing.
B1, and B2 in industrial, and we're only allowing childcare facility in B3. Is that correct?
in an SUP for industrial?
I guess we could leave an SUP for industrial, depending on what's around it or whatever,
Oh,
in terms
see.
of the risk. Like, go ahead and accept the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation on making it permittable in an industrial with an SUP.
With an SUP, okay. So,
Because there, maybe we could put some guardrails around it to make it safer or whatever.
okay, so childcare would be B3 permitted
And
and
I1,
I1 SUP, correct?
yes.
All right, everybody agree?
Yes.
All right, so we're going down to the no, we're just doing the O1s.
No, we're just
Skip 'em to
automatically accepting the O1s, but we're still going line by line, so we're
Okay,
at
clinic, dental, or medical? What did you have on that, Counselor?
I was okay with their changes to not allow them in, or to permit them in industrial. I think they'd be dumb to do it, but if they want to do it, they can do it. But I think it's acceptable in all the other
Okay, everybody agree with that? Okay.
districts.
Clothing and accessory store, they're not allowed in O1 and B1, permitted in B2, B3, SUP. They added SUP in industrial.
I'm okay with an SUP on the industrial side, because that's on them. I mean, that's, I don't think they would want to do it there, so I think the likelihood of them using that zoning would be challenging, but I mean, I can go either way, to prohibit it in the industrial or to, but it might have a place if it's, work clothes or something like that works. Maybe they sell hard hats, who knows? I mean,
So y'all are okay with leaving the SUP?
I'm okay with that.
Everyone okay with that? Okay. Cosmetic store, permitted O1, B1, B2, B3, and an SUP in I1. Any changes, suggested changes?
I don't think it should be allowed in an office area, but I probably am okay with a small business, because I think there's a personal touch to a cosmetic store where they're teaching you how to use it and stuff, and that's kind of more of a small business effect than just retail black and white transactions.
Are you okay with the SUP and
I1? Okay, but you wanted to exit for O1.
Exit for O1,
Does
definitely.
anyone else agree to that? Okay.
I don't know about the SUP and industrial, that just, I don't think it goes. I'd say let's leave it an X for industrial.
So an X for
Industri-
I1.
Was it
I1.
blank before? Because it just says SUP, and I don't see a strikeout for an X.
Okay, so take out the SUP and I-1 cosmetics.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. Okay, creamy,
What is a creamery?
is that like ice
Like-
cream?
Ice
Like,
cream.
Oh,
you
like
know,
an ice cream store?
Or like where they're making milk, like
we have Bluebell over there on,
That's not ours.
oh, is that not on our side? Oh, okay.
yeah.
That's how much I know. I always get our,
I'm okay with the SUP in the commercial area.
I agree.
so, no use in O1, B1, B2, but in SUP and B3 and permitted in industrial. Is that the consensus? So there's no change there. Okay, the drugstore, that's an O1 SUP.
So that would be
And did
not
you-
permitted in
no.
O1.
So put an X on O1 for a drugstore.
Just so y'all know, it was an X before on cosmetic store, the SUP was not permitted before, and so you would be correct.
Okay, we're consistent.
Okay.
I would say a drugstore needs to start in B2 and not allow it in B1 either.
Okay, so XB1, is that what I'm hearing everyone's? Okay, but permitted in B2, B3, and I1. Is that correct? Okay, moving then to the next page, electroplating, which I'm not sure what that is. Not allowed in O1, B1, B1 and B2, but in SUP in both B3 and I1. Any changes on that one?
I'd say leave it as just an I1 because electroplating, yeah, that sounds like heavy duty. There's chemicals, there's,
So change the SUP to an X on B3.
yes,
Okay. Entertainment outdoor,
indoor.
oh, I'm sorry, indoor. The next one's outdoor. Indoor is SUP on O1.
We're skipping all those.
We're not allowing that, so that's an X. Okay, SUP and B1?
I didn't have a change opinion on that one. I guess I'm trying to think of what kind of entertainment. I mean,
I'm sorry, what's the question?
on the
Entertainment indoor,
So it's
B1.
So it's like if you had, like Wing Daddies wanted to have a band inside, so we don't allow them to have indoor if they weren't allowed to. So indoor entertainment, so like we had, the reason that one actually came up is we had a rock wall and grill at Seneca Plaza at one point, and they were gonna have like bands, karaoke night, like, so that would be considered indoor entertainment. Like bar room, indoor entertainment. Then you have outdoor entertainment, which was, like the brewery down, they did like the outside, even out here, they did outdoor entertainment next door to El Monte Barbecue, like, cause they have outdoor, like, an outdoor component to
seating,
them.
okay. Then
Okay.
I'd say you wouldn't want indoor entertainment even in small business. I mean, I don't know.
You're advocating to put an X on the B1 for
One
indoor?
also.
Anyone agree with that?
And that has to be their primary use.
Okay, just FYI.
So when somebody has like multiple uses, so like Wing Daddies is a bar, grill, and then say they had a band, we would pick whatever their primary use is. That's how we make the determination. Falls in a use.
So like the old Grady's that's now whatever it is,
Yeah. Yeah, still barbecue.
Yeah, but
they, like, let's say they had a band just one night, well, that's not their primary use.
yeah.
Right, their primary use is serving barbecue. So it just, whatever their primary use is, that's how they get grouped into the correct category.
Okay.
Okay,
So that way you're.
so an X, okay, so an X on B1 indoor entertainment. Is that correct? No SUP
And outdoor?
and outdoor both?
Yeah, I would put it on outdoor also.
And then of course, we exit out on O1 as well, on outdoor.
Right.
Okay, so, but allow it in entertainment outdoor on B2 with an SUP, permitted in B3, permitted in industrial,
Yes.
and permitted in indoor up above and all those other three zones. Okay.
So everything's okay except for the B1.
Okay, fish market wholesale,
Wait a minute.
they are allowing it in B3 with an SUP?
Good
Yes, Counselor.
I'm
Marsh.
not sure that you said something that I think we were not permitting indoor and outdoor in both O1 and B1?
And B1. I have
Okay,
X
all right.
on both
I
of
thought I
those.
heard you say something else. I apologize.
I haven't, no, I haven't, both X's on those two. Okay, so it's SUP, they changed it from not allowed in SUP to, I mean, excuse me, from, in a B3 to adding an SUP. And then it was already allowed in I1 with an SUP. Any changes on that?
Well,
Yes, Counselor Orozco.
I just want to ask, the doctor, if the fish market and the food processing, HEB does food processing there, and they have a small fish market. How is it going to affect them on this? Okay.
So anything that's currently here, any
So,
changes you
is
make.
grandfathered in?
They're grandfathered.
But, I mean, needless to say, I think HEB fell in B3 anyway, and they probably had, at the time, I would assume they would have had to get an SUP to be there.
Okay, yes, Counselor Campos. Oh,
So
excuse me.
Tim's is a little bit different. So when we talk about fish market wholesale, could be like Tim's, but they're also, like, if you've been downtown where it's like open fish market, that was what they were more concerned with at one point, that you're gonna be, and then you have fish smell, fish carcasses, like, so that's why they grouped it more, or left it more, in the industrial and B3, they were scared of like the outdoor fish market, not Tim's Oriental, which is enclosed store processing. Does that make sense? Like HEB's inside.
And it's a grocery store,
Not their
yeah.
primary use.
Tim's is too. It's not their primary, yeah, but they do have fish. Counselor Campos.
Looking at the next three, I agree with their recommendation of the SUP for all three of those B3 uses.
Same
Okay,
here.
so that would be food processing and freight freight depot truck. So keep the recommendation from the
I'm okay with it.
and zoning on fish market, food processing, and freight truck. Not allowed in O1, B1, B2, but allowed in B3 and industrial with an SUP in all three of those. Okay. Y'all want to take the next three together? Let's do that, and that'll maybe. Gift shop, grocery store, and hobby store. We would X out the grocery store and hobby supply store in O1 as per our recommendation, right?
I don't know whether the gift shop, whether we just should put a permitted use rather than SUP in the industrial. I just don't see the harm. If it's in the industrial, why not let them? I don't know what the prohibition in the past would have been. And why complicate it with an SUP, especially in the industrial for this type of a gift shop?
So you're saying change it from an SUP to a P?
A P.
To a P.
For a gift shop, yes.
Okay. Yes, Counselor.
But I still don't think that we should have a gift shop in an office or a small business. I think it should start in a retail.
Okay.
So
Okay,
those
so-
are currently
so-
so they didn't make a change with that.
Okay, so
but I would-
scratch out gift shop not permitted in O1. Is that what I'm hearing?
Or
And
B1.
Or B1?
Right.
Okay. All right, but allowed in B2, B3, and permitted in I industrial, and no SUP.
Correct.
Okay.
And so I just don't want to complicate things, but like a gift shop could be small retail. Remember,
Oh,
like,
okay.
you know what, you're thinking like, I don't know what kind, like a large, like
Mhm.
Hallmark store.
Yeah,
But you could have a small 3,000 square foot gift shop that sells Leon Valley trinkets. Like that could work in a B1.
so we need to leave the permitted in a B1 for this gift shop if it's small,
Okay.
It's, they're just square footage in relation to what a B1.
Okay, so B1 is permitted for the grocery store. Okay. Grocery store with food and produce market incidental. Are we Xing it out of O1 as per?
Yes.
Yeah, we already did all that.
Yes.
We did all the old ones, yes.
Okay. But permitted
Laboratory
in
testing?
B1, B2, and B3?
Can you have that
And
small of a grocery store that it falls into small business?
Yes, this one right there in the corner by the Hobby Lobby area. They got meat market right here. It's a real
Oh.
small.
Okay, so the grocery store is permitted in all of, except for O1, it's permitted everything else. Hobby supply store, not permitted in O1, but permitted in all the other zones,
Okay.
correct? And intradermal permanent cosmetics, I guess that's what we just had,
That's what we just
right?
had,
So permitted, no, SUP for B1, B2, permitted in B3 and industrial. Any comments on that? Any changes?
yeah. No, I think that's
I
okay.
think that's appropriate. Yes. Counselor
Would,
Campos?
would we, again, well, I heard your comments about the map, okay? But from my understanding, the reason why the grand opening we just went to, the intradermal, it was because it abutted the residential.
Residential, yeah.
So do
Well-
we have,
Also because it was in a B2.
okay, but do we have B3 that abuts to residential? So maybe we need to put an SUP for the B3.
Yes.
Mm,
If that, because I think that was our concern about the medical waste and so forth on the B2.
So add a SUP for B3, is that what I'm hearing?
On the
Agree to that?
intradermal one or
Uh-huh,
the?
on the intradermal one. That was what Counselor Campos was advocating.
Okay.
Add an SUP.
I don't think it does any harm.
No. Mm-mm. Okay, so laboratory testing, not allowed in O1, B1, or B2, SUP in B3, and permitted in industrial. Any changes there? Yes,
I had an
Counselor.
issue with this one because
Okay.
we allow doctor's office in all the districts, starting with office.
Mhm.
And most doctor's offices are doing some laboratory testing. I mean, I know it's not their primary business, so does that?
It just depends. So if they're a primary care physician that does testing for flu, like their real thing is their primary care physician.
Okay,
So it's just a matter of what their use is, and normally when they come fill out their certificate of occupancy, they say what they're going to be.
practice
So if they're-
medicine.
Correct, like we had the plasma center that was in,
Yeah.
they're different, you know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
right.
so it just depends on what they're, if they're split, now I have a doctor's office that he does the work and I guess his wife does a lot of the, like, does other stuff but does testing, but like her side, like it was kind of a hard decision to make
Okay.
what they were gonna do. But it looked like the primary use was going to be general practice. So it's just a matter of whatever the primary use is going to be.
So what changes were you recommending, Counselor?
So, given that additional explanation, I would add I would be okay with their SUP in commercial and industrial, but I think that doctor's offices are gonna be going into retail spaces. I mean, we
Yeah,
used to have a,
doctor's offices do, I think the lab testing are the way that, and there may be a better definition for it in there. My understanding of lab testing was like a lab testing like Ebola, like, I mean, like, not just.
like a regular clinic,
Like a
full-fledged
full-fledged
clinical lab.
clinical
Okay, then
lab.
I'm okay with the way it's written.
So
With the
keep it
changes
as
that they suggested are
the
okay.
SUP for B3 and keep it permitted in industrial?
Yes.
Okay. Leather goods or luggage store?
No, we're down to
We're,
N.
I think we're okay with,
Boarding,
with their-
nursing, and in. So we're Xing out O1 in leather goods, locksmith, boarding house, nursing home, and inn. Is that correct?
Well,
I just want to be
Let's
sure.
take leather store and locksmith first. I
Okay.
think those, given the change to X out O1, they're okay as they are.
They're
because they
permitted
would
in
be
everything
small
else?
businesses.
Is that all right?
Yeah, or small retail.
No SUP. Okay.
Okay.
Lodging? Yes, Counselor Campos, did you have your hand up?
For the lodging, the next
Mm,
three,
yeah.
boarding house, nursing home, inn, I'm not quite sure how an SUP helps in the B1.
Huh. good.
I don't know how that fits. And so the same thing for nursing home, you know, in a B1. And, you know, the B2 and an inn, I don't know that I would necessarily, so an inn, is that a motel? Is that how we're to define this?
So, I can give you the definitions, there's slight changes. But this was, so an inn was like your express inn, they weren't full-blown hotels, they were, like, like an Embassy Suite, I'm trying to think of
There's sleazy motels.
Well, I thought we allowed boarding houses. I know R1's not here, but I know there's boarding houses in R1 and nursing homes in R1, so that's just a given? Is that what you're saying?
No, we didn't touch your residential,
Okay,
your
just,
R1 and R2.
is that at a later date, or?
If you want it to be.
Oh, I don't,
No, I mean, so your R1 uses, all of all of those, I think, I don't know if they're on this, I don't remember seeing them on here. You need to review those.
I was just curious, because I knew, definitely, I've seen them in the neighborhoods,
Yeah, so
boarding homes and
your-
nursing homes.
So, I'm trying to take it in sections.
Sure, I
So
got you.
all of the, like, I have assisted living, I've got a whole
Sure.
bunch of stuff coming to y'all, and we've got it all earmarked for the
Mhm.
next year and a half of stuff that needs to come to y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's coming
And we'll just take it up then? Is that
for
what I,
those districts.
for those districts? Okay,
Could
all
I
right.
make a suggestion?
Yes.
Could we table these three until we get a better definition of what they are?
You have it if you want me to read the definition for y'all. I mean, it's up to you.
Okay, that would,
There should be a definition for it in there.
So you want boarding house first?
Yeah, it's in the definitions over there, yeah. Behind there.
so it's on 3 of 17, I guess, of the definitions.
Yeah, it's a dwelling containing a single dwelling unit and not more than 10 guest rooms or suites of rooms where lodging is provided with or without meals for compensation for more than 1 week. So inn is gonna basically be the same definition, but it doesn't provide meals.
Doesn't it provide what? I'm sorry?
Meals.
Meals,
Food.
okay, gotcha. And then
I have to tell
nursing
you, a
home?
lot of these exist because you didn't have the STRs didn't exist, right? So like
Yeah.
a permitted use table,
Uh-huh,
like you had all of these items that people were allowing in residential use, and then like boarding house, at the time, mixed use was like a big buzzword, and so they thought they were gonna be able to put rooms on top of some of the commercial districts to either rent out as boarding houses or, maybe not so much nursing homes, but like an inn type situation. And so we put them in the commercial district because we were getting inquiries at the time of allowing those types of uses to go either on top of or part of, businesses. So like your dentist shop, where your dentist is in front of like Wing Daddy's. At one point, we had an inquiry, somebody was looking at purchasing it, and it didn't happen, but they were looking at turning that into like an inn, like a bed and breakfast. It had the motif for it. So that would have been it would be considered as part of one of your commercials. So we added whether or not they were gonna be allowed or not allowed in your commercial districts in order to help regulate them before they came. We have
mm-hmm.
never, since I've been here, we've never had those options appear, on any of your other districts, but not to say that they couldn't.
Okay, yes, Counselor
So
Campos.
would we really want them in a B1 and not have an SUP? And if you wanted to have an SUP, put it into B2 and B3? That's my suggestion.
On which one, boarding?
Boarding house.
Boarding house, so add SUP on B2 and B3, is that what you're saying?
And X out B1.
And X out B1. Anyone agree with that?
Agree with that.
Okay, all right, so does everybody, so we'll X out B1 and we'll allow it in B2 and B3 with an SUP, is that correct?
Yes.
And what about industrial? Just X it out?
Exit out for
It's not
industrial.
allowed, okay, very good. All right, how about the nursing home?
Oh, I
Any-
thought it was all three of those.
Is it all three? Is it, I'm sorry, I didn't,
Say,
okay, so we're gonna X out B1 for the nursing home and the inn, and then add it to B2 with an SUP, and add B3, it's permitted but with an SUP.
And I think a lot of
Correct.
that had to do with B1 being so close to residential that if you were gonna allow it in residential, that's why they were okay with it being in a B1.
Okay.
Or O1. That was like their rationale
Now-
at the time for it.
Okay, is the nursing home allowed then in I-1? Do y'all agree with that in industrial? What do y'all think? I mean, a nursing home in industrial? That would be down, on the other side of the
Yeah,
expressway by
Timco and all
HEB.
back there.
I wouldn't think you'd
No.
wanna have
What do y'all,
I know, we shouldn't look at the map.
I know.
I don't think it makes sense to have an industrial area with something that needs to be quiet and peaceful and, you know, healthcare and all of that, so.
Okay, so are we saying X out permitted use on industrial for nursing
Yes.
home? Okay. And how about the inn?
I'd keep it in X.
Keep it in the
I'd-
X?
I'd keep the SUP in an industrial. Again, that's their decision, but if it's somebody
Is that
that,
what you were saying, you
I
were saying
would
just,
exit out. I'd just
he'd
be
exit
consistent
out.
with-
So we've got exit out or keep it in with an SUP. What do y'all think?
I'm fine with Xing it out too.
Exit it out? Okay. So we'll exit out for industrial. Okay, next is motorcycle, sales.
We're gonna compare notes.
Okay,
Okay, so O1 is out.
out.
And what about permitted in B1, B2, B3 with an SUP and allowed in industrial? Is everyone okay with that, or are there any changes? Yes, ma'am.
So I don't think it
Counselor.
should be allowed in a B1, and I think a B2 and a B3 should both need an SUP.
Oh, okay.
I agree.
Everybody, okay, so we'll add SUP on B2 and B3, and we'll X out B1, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and how about allowing it in industrial?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Pawn shop, it's only allowed in industrial and B3 with a SUP.
I'd agree with that.
I'm
Everybody
okay with
agree?
that change.
All right, all right, all right. Restaurant and food establishment,
There's no
I guess we're
change.
not gonna do O1, we'll scratch out that one, right? Okay, what about permitted in B1, B2, B3, and industrial? Everybody okay with that? Anything?
I'm okay with
Fine,
that.
I'm okay
All
with that.
right. Residential townhouse, a loft, O1, are we gonna X that one out too? Residential,
Well,
yes, ma'am.
that's that whole mixed use
Yeah,
thing. So,
uh-huh.
you know, given that definition, I guess it could happen, and it could be over offices, like in the
Mm. Yeah,
strip center that
uh-huh.
has Comfort Cafe. They could
Yeah,
have
mhm.
homes in that second floor.
Businesses up there, they could turn those into apartments.
Yeah.
So leave the SUP under O1 for a residential townhouse, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
Okay, what about the SUP in B1?
yes.
Keep it? Keep
Yes.
it, okay. And then permitted in B2, B3, and industrial?
Yes.
Okay, so no changes
What
there.
was it
Yes.
before? If
It
I'm
was-
looking at this,
It was the
I
same.
don't see what it was before.
It was the same. They
It's
didn't
just
X
that-
anything
So
out.
it's in blue, so
Oh.
that means there was an edit.
We added the term mixed use.
Got it.
Oh.
Okay.
Residential townhouse, loft, live, work, which kind of got that sensitive,
Oh.
but maybe more common
Okay.
term or more common term.
Thank you.
Okay,
good.
so then the
And then
SUP
the
goes
original
to
one, they
the,
were blank. It was actually blank.
the SUP goes to the mixed use then, is that right? Is it blue to blue or permitted? No.
No, they just added the term mixed use.
Okay.
Before, it was blank. They didn't
Oh, it's blank, okay, gotcha. All right,
So
thank
under
you.
O1, B1, B2, B3, and industrial was blank.
Oh, it used to be blank, and now we've added, okay. Everybody agrees on that. Okay, salon, that's, O1,
I got a-
yes,
I got a question, on the
Coun-
salon,
Counselor.
I know that they're doing Botox in some of the salons. Didn't we just approve one, recently?
Yeah, so it's whatever their primary use is. So if the primary use is hairs, but they also do nails, their primary use is hair. They just have somebody that's currently working that can do nails or eyebrows or whatever.
The other one was introdermal. So that was their primary, the injections and stuff. So that's different from a salon.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to have a trained professional on staff.
And did we put them in a B1?
Okay,
Do you
They're
remember?
B2s,
It was a B3?
B2.
B2?
okay,
think
are
we
we,
should
are
X
we
them.
Xing out
I
for the
think we should
O1?
The X out the O1 for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah.
And then allow it in the rest of the zones? B1, B2, B3, and industrial? Does everyone
okay
agree
with
with
that,
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I-
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I did have on the next one, stationary sales.
Stationary? Mm-hmm.
Is that obsolete now?
No. I still
What was
write
the
notes.
question, Philip?
So
Obsolete,
stationary sales,
stationary.
so
But you don't
everything
go
is
to a
online.
stationery store to do it.
There's,
Well, I'll go
there
to
isn't
Is that a
any.
Hallmark?
Yeah, I'll
or-
go to Hallmark. I mean, yeah, I will do that.
But
That's
that's-
retail.
Yeah, that's a
That's retail.
retail, but it's not stationary. So all the stationaries is online now. Now, I don't know if there's any printing stores. They,
Yeah.
We have Quick Copy, but they're technically, I think now, I think they're one of our, I think they're still zone stationaries, they're still on the permitted stationary zone. But their primary use now is they make copies.
right, because having been through 2 weddings of my children, when we were trying to go see stationery, everything is online. There is no such thing as a stationary
Yeah.
store anymore.
Well, you can go into Quick Trip and they will show you. I mean, Quick Copy.
I was gonna say Quick Trip.
Quick
Why-
Copy, T will take care
I
of
said,
you.
wow, I didn't know Quick Trip
No.
is into stationaries.
Sorry, Quick Copy.
That's okay, hey.
But that's
I'm-
not their
I do
primary
that.
business, though.
So the
Um,
primary
should-
business turned into printing,
Yeah.
but they used to be, I think, back in the day.
So do we want to change this to printing or
No,
copying
They have a
services?
They have a printing. There's
Okay.
one.
So do we delete this if it's obsolete? I mean,
I vote to delete it.
that's,
Nobody
Is-
knows what it means
Is everybody
anyway.
in agreement, just delete stationary sales all the way around? Okay. Tailor shop, 01, X that out?
Yes,
It's small
Okay,
business.
and then it's permitted on all the others, is that all right?
yes.
ma'am.
Okay, very good. Next, and the last page, trophy sales, exit in 01,
Yes.
Yeah.
as we discussed, permitted in the rest of these zones,
Yes.
is that all right? Truck heavy repair maintenance, ooh, okay, so, they changed it to B3 to add an SUP. It used to not be allowed, but it's permitted in industrial. Does everyone agree with that?
Do we have one in Grissom, on Grissom Road?
Probably. Don't we have a repair shop on
Heavy
Grissom?
On
repair
Grissom, right?
I
maintenance.
think we do. Is that
I
all
would
right?
not allow the SUP in a B3. I would just leave it the way it was with only industrial permitted.
okay, I agree.
Okay, so we scratch out, we delete B3 as a non-use, okay.
3B out, if
That-
that's correct.
University College Higher Education, let's see, what do we have there? They added permitted in B2 and added permitted in industrial. Do you all agree with that?
Does this, again, I'm sorry to ask, go back to this, but does this type of school also equate to a tax exempt property? And so, again, this, looking forward to assemblies, I'm not so sure that I would permit it in a B2. That's just my suggestion.
I agree with Mr.
Okay,
Campos.
so
We
we'll
should
take it out of B2?
Make
is
it an
that-
X in B2.
Okay, and then what about industrial?
Hey, it could be an auto mechanic school.
Well, there you go. All right, so we'll leave it in,
There.
in industrial. Okay, warehouse storage, they exited in 01, and then B2, they added an SUP, but then permitted in B3 and industrial. Do you all agree with the B2 recommendation for a SUP on warehouse?
I would go with an X on a B2 in a retail area.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the space requirements and people coming in and out all the
That's a
time,
good,
the
that's a
out.
good
Well, I
sales
guess
tax.
if you had an SUP.
You get any sales
they-
tax on warehouse storage facilities? We do?
Yeah, we do, right, for storage.
Yeah, they were one of the big sponsors for the 4th of July.
Oh, Who's
Leon
that?
Valley Storage
oh,
or something?
Leon Valley Storage.
Oh, you're talking about just regular storage units?
Oh.
I'm thinking warehouse, like
Yeah,
big,
uh-huh.
Okay.
like Costco storage.
Okay,
areas.
so
So
does everyone,
I'd put an X in retail for sure.
anybody agree with that to X
I'll
B2?
agree- I'll agree with that.
XB2? Okay. For warehouse storage facility. Watch and clock repair, they're permitting it in office. What do y'all think about that?
We're skipping that.
We're
That's already
skipping
been-
that one, so we'll
right.
X that one out.
Yeah,
And permitted every place else?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, and then the welding, the only change is to add an SUP in B3.
I'm
You
okay with
agree,
that.
agree with that, but Xing in the rest of it. Okay. Well, that wasn't too bad. Okay.
Harry, you can make it.
I'm getting the score right here.
He will not be denied. He will
And you're
not
not
be
gonna tell
denied.
us.
It-
My husband's texting me,
Just in case you guys
12
said-
minutes, count
Just in case you guys are recording it, so I'm not gonna say anything.
So if I could, items that I'd be interested, some more information on would be, how do we regulate developments that need a great bit of water?
Like data centers,
Right.
which we're not
And
gonna
so
have, I don't think.
that being, you know, this is data centers, I don't know if we have enough room here, but in the event that we do, how can the city protect itself? The electricity is gonna go through CPS, but the water, but the water would clearly be on us.
It is on one of my lists just to add provisions in. Okay. Your next two big ordinances we're going to look at is, I've already sent to Art, for short-term rentals and puppy mills. And then we'll be looking at your vacant lot one. We'll bring this clean version back. We're not gonna get into all the whole permitted use table. I want you to adopt this. And then
Just
I'll
this
bring-
aspect, but then we'll look at the other,
and I'm gonna
okay, 'cause
bring-
I'll,
So since y'all have touched all of these, now I'm gonna bring the next section of what y'all didn't look at to y'all in chunks. Kinda like the way we did the PDD, we'll bring it in chunks, have y'all go through it, and we'll eventually get through it all. You eat an elephant one bite at a time. But then the extra provisions of the code, that we have assisted living. We do have some talk about, and not even just data centers in general, but any type business that would require X amount of water, what they would need to be bringing to the table. So I'm looking at a caveat of how to word that a little bit. And so we'll bring a piece back to y'all under commercial kind of type uses of what that will look like. Because it'll be not specifically to data centers, it'll be amount of water usage, for commercial type industry, is kind of the language I'm looking at. Somebody kind of did one similar, so you don't have to go and change your whole code provision. We would add a caveat of what that looks like, is what I'm thinking. It'll go through Art and come to y'all, so.
And
yes, sir,
And
go
then the
ahead.
last thing, you know, I was talking to the manager about, well, you know, we still have cemeteries allowed. And it's, would we allow another cemetery within our city limits? And I don't know that we should. I don't know that we have the property for it, but that may be one other thing that we might want to consider looking at.
That's in the other section.
Right, that we
Right.
didn't touch.
Right. I was gonna say that my husband said he can't sleep at night, so anyway, but, what's his name? The guy that does SpaceX, that guy.
Musk.
Elon Musk is come up, and he saw it last night on the news at 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever, but he is developing something that will provide energy for data centers in space with AI. I mean, this guy is amazing. Not only SpaceLink, but, you know, SpaceX, and now this data center for the electricity. Now, don't know about the water, but I mean, I don't know where it is in the development, but,
The-
But if we learn anything from Corpus, right?
yeah,
It's probably a good idea
So,
for y'all to
anyway.
have some sort of
lots of change,
provisions,
yeah.
in there. I don't know if we need a heavy data center ordinance necessarily. I think if you have a commercial business, caveat for water usage may kind of cover you from a blanket perspective, and we can kind of take a look at what that looks like.
Because right now, we're trying to cover it with our impact fees. But if we get a large amount that we're going to have to buy, I don't know how we're going to recover that in the short term with these impact
No, I
fees.
mean, everything I mean, these data centers are using inordinate amount of water. I mean, more than, I mean, it's
More than a
crazy.
town.
Like, how can they do that? So, I mean,
Did San Antonio pass a 33% increase on water, Philip?
they're working on
So
it,
they're
and
still working on it then?
yeah, but the board recommended it.
The
Yeah.
board
Yeah,
recommended it, they put
yeah.
it once, they're, you know,
Mhm.
but
Can I ask another question?
Sure can.
Irrelevant to what we're working here, but on the air conditioner permit for residential, do they still have to get a permit to work on the air conditioning? Because, and this is a while back, because I had a friend of mine that does air conditioning. He said, well, I'm gonna go to Leon Valley, but I understand that I have to get a permit to work
they
on
have
it.
to register here.
Yeah.
That's different. So all of our contractors have to register here, and then we determine whether or not they need a permit for said work they're gonna do. So sometimes
Is that business or residential, or both?
Any of it. So
Yeah.
anytime a contractor's gonna come in and there's, so no, we don't catch everybody. But anytime a contractor's gonna come in and work on roof, AC, anything in your home, electrical, they have to come register here with the city of Leon Valley.
Is there a fee to that?
No, not for registration.
Now, once they put in that they're gonna do said work, then we determine what permits they need for said work. So I'm just changing out the light caps. Well, you don't need a permit for that, you can just go in, but some people aren't comfortable doing that. But if I'm gonna rewire because I'm changing out my wiring, need a permit for that. But if I'm gonna come and just change Freon in your well, that would require. a permit.
Well, because
So minor maintenance, you know,
No.
a lot of people that buy the ACs have that. It's not gonna be permitted. You
So
know, you don't
what-
need a permit for that.
Okay.
It's when you're gonna change out, you know, condensers and things of that
The whole
nature
unit,
that you do
yeah.
have to pull
The
a
whole
permit for
unit,
that.
yeah.
Or exchange a whole brand new unit.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
So how do you, your contractors already registered, do they have to register each time?
It's good for a year. Yep.
And
The
they pay,
registration's good for a year.
and they pay a fee, and they pay a fee, a registration fee.
There's no registration fee.
No,
You're
we
not
used to.
allowed charge, there's certain things.
We
in, like,
used to.
plumbing,
We
electrical,
used to.
you're not allowed to charge
Okay,
them for registration.
that's a change.
Legislative change, yeah.
Yeah.
A few years ago, but yes.
Remember, we used to have it, yeah. Okay.
One other
All right,
follow-up
yes,
question.
Counselor
So,
Campos.
do we need to put in here, in this table, anything about bring BYOB in after hours? You know, I'm just trying to,
No. So what I'm gonna do with, so you may, when we get to that section, so again, if there's parts of your, at any time, if there's parts of your code that you want to bring up or have a like, we can. But I understand, like, you're taking, like, the antique shop, like, they came in for a permit or whatever. You have your secondary BYOB permitting section. You don't have to put anything in your table. Reference that, it sits by itself.
it was, really my thought was the after-hours club, that hookah bar that went through, and, you
Yes.
know, when I remember being on part of the Planning and Zoning Commission, when they brought that to us, and one of those things was there gonna be any, Mr. Blackmore, he great intentions, are there gonna be any go-go girls dancing? That's exactly what he said during that meeting, is, oh, no, but in fact, there were. You know, at the end of the day, and then it got out of hand.
Go, go, girls, that's cute.
Yeah, and so, anyway, that's,
No, so all of those things are regulated in the use of the business. So when you have the hookah lounge, for instance, your BYOB, you have a whole section that regulates any business that's trying to do a BYOB. But if any time somebody is doing something outside of the use, like the Go-Go Girls, or they're gonna bring alcohol and they shouldn't, they're not in parameters, we have a way of shutting them down. So it's just a matter of being notified that they're doing X, Y.
so, sorry, Mayor. So an SUP, because I thought they came over for an SUP, but what happened was that we did not become aware that, you know, they were an after-hours club where they started at 10:30 and closed at 4 in the morning. And so would that SUP then regulate the time they can be open? Because it's in my understanding from that situation, and maybe I just don't recall it correctly, we really came after them because they were violating the occupancy level, because they were putting in twice as.
There was three things. They were violating the occupancy level. They were violating just TABC regulations in regards to alcohol usage. And then when we gained access to the occupancy, we realized that they did other things inside of their building that weren't permitted. And so we were able to shut them down. And then, due to other types of activities going down there that we were gonna prohibit them from doing, they shut down and they didn't come back. But when somebody comes in, so like a hookah lounge, let's say they come in and they get an SUP, at that point you regulate their hours of operation. During that time, I don't remember what the conversation was, but we didn't put hours of operation onto that hookah lounge. They put parameters, I think, around,
Parking, I
parking,
think,
something like little things.
noise.
But anytime you have a
Yeah.
business that's coming in that requires an SUP, it's always good to ask yourself a couple of questions. One, what is your intended use? Because then you can write that in the SUP. So we have to reference the intended use. It's in there. And then you can also put in their hours of ask yourself, is this gonna be okay till midnight, till 1 in the morning? Like, what hours of operation do you want that business to hold? And then you touch on the light thing, what I call light things, but like the light, trash, parking, what does that look like? So let's say, Evers Road has a couple of businesses along there. If something were to go in one of those, you definitely don't want parking, because there's very little parking to impact in the residential area. So as we kind of move through the next section, so I'm gonna bring this to you just like this, we're gonna read it twice. You can have some more discussion if you want to on just this, and then we're gonna mark this off, and I'm gonna bring the next chunk to y'all. They've already looked at it, didn't have any changes, so then the next chunk that comes to y'all, anything you wanna do, and I'll keep that one smaller so we can get, like, maybe spend an hour at a time per council meeting, unless y'all wanna take it in a big bulk, and we can spend a few hours here doing that. If not, I'll just bring it in small little chunks to y'all, and we can handle them at those times.
Okay, yes, Counselor.
And just a closing remark, Mr. Hernandez, I really want to thank you for all of your input and the way you put this together. I really appreciate your leadership in this, and I'm glad you provided that leadership to the commission. So thank you very much.
Yes.
If I can
think
piggyback on
that-
that, I was just gonna say that.
Buddy.
It's been reading my notes. It's because of the hard work that you've done, and you bring us this, that we're able to make decisions like this. If you had not brought this out, and given us your ideas of it, we couldn't be as informed, of what's going on with this. Again, we thank you, and we thank your committee.
I've learned a lot because of you. And I do appreciate it.
I think we all appreciate you, so thank you so much. If you'll pass that on.
Realized that this was gonna be a phased process, and we were just one of the earlier phases, so we
Yeah.
realized we wanted to set y'all up for being able to approach it a little easier, and,
Thank you.
it played together, I think.
It was perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So if there's not any further questions or comments, we move to adjourn at 7:49 on Wednesday, June 10th, without objection. So 7:49. Go Spurs, go.
Great.
I have to, 'cause